The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
Kara Oosterhuis here with RealAgriculture.com. We are back here today with another Canola School episode, and I have here with me Zach Carlson, who's an Extension Beef Specialist at North Dakota State University. How's it going today?
Thanks for having me. It's great.
Awesome. So unfortunately, where things are not so great is, we're no stranger to the fact that there is a drought across the western half of North America, basically. And as an extension specialist, you are looking at some options for producers that may have some canola that isn't quite up to par. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So we were getting some questions here through, all of July, really, about producers, livestock producers, as well as crop producers looking for options if they had canola, and a lot of forage in this area, as well as much of North America, as you indicated, is looking for those forage resources. We know, we really didn't see the hay production this summer, and so looking into the fall and winter, coming up with some feeding strategies, we were getting a lot of calls about canola and what are the options and things to consider if producers wanted to take that for a forage crop instead of for an oilseed.
So what are some of these considerations? I mean, obviously it's a whole different crop again, and you are feeding it to an animal, so you're considering digestive systems and all of that. What sort of considerations do you have there?
Yeah, so it's going to really, plant maturity drives forage quality, but canola being a brassica in the brassica family, you actually have, when the optimum time for quality would be comparative, kind of like alfalfa, would be in that full bloom or early pod stages. And at that point, you could see, a energy value or TDN of between 55 and 60% in that forage, as well as protein somewhere in that 15% crude protein range. So really, a good quality forage put up right, and you just kind of have to manage the drying portion of it. You want to ensure with canola that you're getting a good dry down process and able to put that forage up, under that 20% moisture mark to prevent any of that molding or that spontaneous combustion, of course. So any of that molding will, of course, impact the feeding value of it, but you can really put up some quality forage utilizing canola.
So now, what about any byproducts as well that you might be mixing that canola with? What sorts of things are you considering there?
Yeah, you want to be cautious because canola can lead to bloat. So oftentimes you want to gradually introduce it. So if you do harvest it for hay, you want to gradually introduce it into the diet of your cattle or livestock, and then probably limit it to only be about 50%, just to mitigate any potential bloat issues, as it can lead into that. In addition to that, sulfur levels can run actually a little bit higher in canola, and so you want to be aware and have your water tested and know what your sulfate levels are in your waters. As much of Canada as well as western part of the United States can deal with some hot spots in terms of increased sulfate concentrations in well water even. And so be aware of that, as well as if you're going to be introducing corn distillers grains, there's oftentimes sulfur introduced in that ethanol process. So within that, being aware of how much sulfur you're introducing into the diet if you are going to be bringing in a protein source such as high in sulfur like distillers grain. So just being aware of that, but definitely something you can easily manage and handle. I guess I would add another consideration, particularly for this year, is drought-stressed canola is going to probably bring higher nitrate values in with it. And so if you're cutting it for hay, or if you're going to graze this canola for forage, you want to be aware of those nitrates. And that simply, you can take a sample of canola, just random cutting of plants throughout a field, and then submit that for nitrate test. Many laboratories will analyze for nitrates. And then once you do that, reach out to your local extension or university and get the information for nitrate concentrations and really what are acceptable levels, because we can manage for nitrates, whether that's with hay. We can dilute the canola forage with some low nitrate feeds and be able to manage higher nitrates, but we have to know what we're dealing with, and so it's important to get that tested before you do any type of feeding or grazing.
Absolutely. And if you're getting your crop tested, is there anything else you're really looking for too in there?
Sure. Yeah. You it's always good to know what you have. And so I would encourage, we talk about these book values of, 15% crude protein and 55% TDN, but it's really good because variation within a field, much like variation across a country, will be different. And so, of course, while you're out there taking that sample to measure toxicity, look into submitting a sample just to get a protein and nutrient get nutrient content back, so you know what you're dealing with.
Absolutely. And if you're grazing or however you're consuming the canola, is there certain heights you're looking at? Is there such a thing as too short if you're looking at that drought-stricken canola?
Sure. No, not necessarily too short. As if plants have been stunted in growth and things along those lines, you will be probably looking at higher nitrate concentrations. Cattle or livestock particularly will graze naturally from the tops of plants down, and nitrate accumulates from the soil up. So from the stalk, the base of the stalk up, the higher concentration of nitrates will be in the stalk and at the base of the stalk near the ground. So naturally, cattle can adapt to nitrates simply by the way they graze from the top down. And so if you're going to be grazing higher nitrate canola, it's really just make sure that you provide a lighter stalking rate than you think is necessary in order to not force those animals to graze heavily on those stalks, which contain that higher concentration of nitrates. And so by doing that, you prevent any of those problems, as well as even you can provide additional energy, whether that be corn, some type of concentrate at just a couple pounds, 2 to 3 pounds, to assist in actually providing a little bit more energy, and that helps reduce the risk of nitrate toxicity in cattle when they're grazing high nitrate. Certainly, you can ensile this and really turn this into something similar to haylage of sorts, more common alfalfa haylage or something like that. Kind of going back to what I mentioned about drying this product down, you want to target for silages, you want to target about 60 to 65% moisture. So in many parts of the country, we may be past that by now, but certainly, as we consider options in the future and things along those lines, as we know, droughts aren't necessarily a one-time deal or a one-year thing. So looking into the future and thinking about, silage and certainly want to be aware of that and targeting the right moisture content if you're gonna go that route. If you select a canola too much moisture at the time of ensiling, you're going to end up with a lot of seepage, a lot of essentially organic acids, and going to reduce the nutrient profile, as well as overall not get that proper ensiling. So ensuring that you're targeting that right moisture content.